everyone, I am Jackie Larahair, the Tigress of the Light. I'm a spiritual mentor, light language linguist, and the developer of Fractaline Healing. Today we're going to talk about light language, the linguistics part of it, because we're diving into dialects. More and more people are getting curious about dialects, how to channel them, and what they're really about. First and foremost, we need to understand that light language is a transmission of energy. If you've been watching this channel, you certainly have heard me say that over and over and over again. But it's actually really important that we understand light language is energy. You're channeling a frequency. You're allowing this information or healing energy to flow into your being and out through your mouth as sounds, or if you're writing it, it's going to come through as those symbols, sigils, light codes, that sort of thing. And if you're using your hands, you can be moving the energy around and pushing it through your hands and pushing it towards somebody, or even bringing it into yourself. And then dance is a larger expression of the hand movements. The interesting thing is, though, that we can be channeling ourself. We can be channeling what I like to call the mid-range. So if you're familiar with the ego self, that would be more the lower self. And then our higher self would be obviously the part that is less moving in our day-to-day lives. It's a part of ourself, it's the aspect of ourself that has the greater, broader perspective that's closer to the perspective of the soul. It's that intermediary between the incarnated aspects and the spirit aspects of ourself. But I've sort of tuned into this middle range that I call the middle self, and that's the part of you that is not your ego acting out, but it's not your higher self either. It's definitely the part of you that is incarnated. It is dealing with day-to-day life, but it's maybe dealing with day-to-day life from a more elevated, higher vibrational perspective. So that's my distinction between the lower, middle, and higher selves. We can channel the lower self, and that's the ego, and that's going to be tending towards a little bit more dysfunction. It's going to be tending towards more of the programming that all of us have. But really, like when you're put on autopilot and we're just acting in our day-to-day lives unconsciously, that is actually a form of channeling. It's not a conscious channeling, it's not a high vibratory channeling, but it is channeling nonetheless, because we are moving in the energy and the energy is moving us. Now, if we go up a level and go to that mid-range where we're more conscious, but we're not the higher self yet, then this is the part of us that more people who are seeking to live their lives greater than the fear-based ego will start to be able to channel a light language, because we are more in tune with the light from our middle self. And so therefore we can be expressing ourself as light language. And I'll give you an example of this. When you are free writing, or when you are in the garden and you're doing a habit, but it's a habit based out of love. It's a habit based out of a great interest. It's an inspiration, it's a creativity. Those are all keys that you are in flow, but you are also connected more to the light rather than the fear-based ego self. Okay, that's the distinction there. So even in those moments, I hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, I can't connect with spirit, but I really want to channel light language." I say, well, you know what? It is actually possible. It is possible for you to channel light language, because you can connect to that middle self through doing those meditations, doing the breath work, doing even certain exercises, like athletes who train very, very hard and they get in the zone. That's a form of channeling, and they're channeling their own energy. They're bringing that forward. They're cultivating, nurturing it, training that energy to come forward in a rather excellent sort of way. So in a sense, that is light language. Now, there's nothing to translate there, is it? It's more of an expression. And if we're in a state of functionality while we're doing that, which hopefully we are, then it's sort of a healing energy because we're in alignment. We're more in alignment with ourself. So, just some concepts for you to play with there. Now, the next step would obviously be channeling our higher self. Now, we were talking about dialects at the start of this whole thing. Each one of these stages will be a dialect because each one of these stages is a different frequency. The frequency of your ego self is a heck of a lot different from the frequency of your middle self, and is different again from your higher self, and is different again from the soul self, let alone the energies coming from your guidance, from your ancestors, from a planet, and so on. So, if we're able to tune into our middle self, the next step now is to tune into the higher self. Now, the higher self again is that aspect that has that greater perspective. It's much closer to the soul. It's a very useful perspective for us to consciously work with because the higher self can give us a lot of insights, not only about ourselves, but about the world around us. So, as part of good spiritual practice, we tend to like to want to connect to our higher selves. And many of you are going to know that because most of you are probably walking this path and have been doing so for a little bit. So, you've discovered the importance of the higher self. But you can channel your higher self as a form of light language. And that's a really neat way to connect in with this aspect because it's not reliant upon our linguistic skills. It's not reliant upon our ability to be able to hear or feel or sense the higher self coming through as a language, in our favored language. So for me, that would be English. And so some people have a harder time being able to receive an energy and then put words to it. That is a specific skill, and it is something I believe that people can train. It's just is harder for some people than for others. So if it's a difficult one for you, but it is an interest, please do continue doing your practices. Practice free writing, practice breath work, practice meditation, practice getting into that elevated state where you are connecting into the higher aspects, and start asking questions, and over time you will get yes and no feeling, or not so sure. And that, well, when you practice it more and more, starts to get more clear. And then you can start having these ideas or thoughts pop into your mind. And you can kind of think, oh, I don't think I thought of that. So I think that was a new thought for me. And that is a sign that it's coming from quote unquote outside of yourself. Now, if it's your higher self, it's still part of you. It's not really outside yourself, but we can even think of it like it is outside of ourselves. So, after we do connect in with our higher self, and this is the way that I like to go about it for people who aren't connected to their guides, work with yourself first before you go seeking information from outside of yourselves, from your guidance team. But when you're ready to connect in with your guidance team, your head guide can hopefully help you to start bringing in the energy through light language. So you can ask your guides to help you speak light language, and you can also ask your higher self to help with the light language as well. So that is just a quick overview of how it kind of works with our own energies and then starting to branch outside. But what I really like to get into today is the different dialects for even bigger than that. These are the oceans that I like to swim in. So, as some of you know, I channel pretty much everything. If it's of the light, I feel I can channel it. So far, I've been able to do so. If somebody wants me to channel a certain being or a certain star system in its entirety, or we can usually find that frequency. I have that ability to be able to hone in on the unique energetic frequencies of certain bodies, of masses, such as star systems, such as planets, such as individual beings, and beyond collective groups. So, I just have to be able to tune into that frequency, and I do so by following the contact point that the person who is asked me to channel that, I follow their contact point, because if they're asking for it, it means that they already have the contact point, whether or not they're aware of it or not. They're asking for it. They've already bridged that gap. So I follow their bridge to their contact point, and now I have it forever. So that's one of my unique skills. I don't know who else does it that way, but that's how I work. So for me, I will channel any planet, any sun, any star system, any galaxy. But then we can also get into the galactic energies, consciousness. So, like the Pleiadians, and the Pleiadians will have a energetic frequency in their totality. Each Pleiadian consciousness, like each being, will have its own energetic signature that we can tap into. And this happens for every, like, whether it's the Andromedans, whether it's the Syrians, or it's the Lyrans, or the Centurions, or you name it. It's the same across the board. The various galactic federations also will have a collective energetic signature. Now we're really tuning into all these dialects, right? So each energetic signature is a dialect unto itself. What I really love is the Pleiadian high priestess. I think they are really wonderful. Well, the high priestess of any of them, really, because it is an elevated consciousness. So how this happens is you have you have a group. We'll say the Pleiadians, because a lot of people are very familiar with the Pleiadians, and love their energy and their consciousness. So they have a totality consciousness, and then within their totality, they have different ranges, just like with humanity, right? There's some people who are really unconscious, and then there's some people who are super conscious, and they work very hard to be that way. Or there's some people, lots of people in between, right? So it's the same thing with all these star beings, is they will have a range of consciousness, the same as with different groups. Like even within the Galactic Federation of Light, there are different levels of consciousness within the Galactic Federation. Some are very, very conscious, they're super conscious, and then there's other layers to the Galactic Federation that are less conscious. So when we tune into the Galactic Federation of Light, I personally am seeking to connect in with the higher ranges, because that's my interest. I'm not interested in speaking so much with the lower vibratory energies, although there are times when that could be helpful. So we're open to it all, and as directed, in accordance with love, always in accordance with love. So within the body, we're using the Pleiadians, you'll have this range, and it's kind of like an octave. I wouldn't say like one is better than another. Like when we're thinking of something being higher conscious or lower conscious, it's not that the higher conscious is better. It's not that the lower conscious is worse. It just is. And so it's, what do you want to be working with? Who do you want to be connecting to? What frequencies are of interest to you and of benefit to your being, to the beings around you, and so on and so forth. So I really hope that we can work through this hierarchical sort of formation that humanity has embedded in our consciousness. It's actually doesn't serve us all that well. It keeps us stuck in a paradigm that is not in optimal flow with true universal consciousness. It keeps us limited. So we really want to branch out of that system of being better or worse, and just accept for what is, and that every level, whatever that may be, has its own beauty and significance. So within the structure of this octave of frequencies, you can have different groups of consciousness, and one of those is the high priestess. Now that is one of the higher, more refined levels of consciousness of the Pleiadians in their totality. So, and again, this goes with the Centurions as well. It goes with the Syrians. It goes with all these different star seed groups. So that's who I really love to connect in with, because they have a beautiful frequency that I really resonate with, and always very lovely messages to share. Now, if we move outside that concept, we're moving now into contact points that go beyond what we sort of know about as the star beings, star races. It gets more into blueprint, matrix, holographic sort of energies and levels of that consciousness. Those are super fascinating levels to be connecting into. And what I've found is those who are able to tap into some of that, those energies really rock our world. Like they really, really have a strong impact on the physical body. And that's where you see shifts in people where they have amazing healings and amazing activations. And there's more people that I'm finding are able to tune into some of those levels, because humanity is at a point in time where we are raising our consciousness, becoming more aware of what's going on, and a lot of that has to do with the photon belt and the cycles, um, the Vedic cycles, and heading into the golden age. But it's also a time that we're in, even on another level, where humanity is trying to decide if it's going to remain being suppressed or if we're going to exalt ourselves and move into the more unity consciousness, which I'm really hoping it's not even about ascension. It's actually about coming into the body more, coming into the heart, and going so deep within the heart that you discover yourself as this fractal and how much incredible unfolding there is to discover within your own being. And remember, the human is one of the only beings, at least in our galaxy, that has the entire universe, has the entire information base of the entire universe in like the side in our thumb. Okay, like we are a hologram of the entire universe. So this is why the other galactic star system beings are so interested in us. They're watching us very closely. They're participating on this planet. They're doing like all this stuff with us for eons. Like it's for so long it would blow your mind. But it's coming to a little bit of a crucial time where humanity, it's important that we're stepping into our power and reclaiming the expansion of our eternal self. It's kind of the language that I want to play with right now. Hopefully you guys can follow that. So if we can expand our mind and make those contact points, like I was explaining, that are way, way out there, that are getting into the fabric of our entire universe, and then we can flip it and come inside and find that same thing with inside us, because remember, as far out as you can go is as far in as you can go. You have to be able to go within in order to reach out, which is why there are so many practices based around coming deep within the being. You have to come inside in order to branch out. That's very, very important. So when you are able to go both ways, now you are reaching into parts of all of creation, and then discover that within yourself. That's very, very empowering. It's very, very powerful. And it makes you realize more about what you're doing here on this planet. It becomes so relevant to your day-to-day life. It becomes actually very, very life-changing. And this concept, these ideas, I'm currently working on another book. I don't know if this is going to be book 4 or book 5, but I'm currently working on another book that is going into all of these concepts, and we have codes to help people make these connections, because it's going to be so important for us to anchor, not only, like I was saying, deep, deep, deep within our being, but also to anchor it to this planet, because we're taking the planet with us. This is such a wonderful, wonderful planet that can hold so many energies, so many frequencies, so much consciousness, that it's helping. I mean, we're always helping consciousness to continue to grow and expand and come to know itself, but this will be a whole other like breakthrough in consciousness if humanity can really participate with it. We are actually that important, which is like kind of weird and wild, but it's also important that we embrace that within ourselves in a very natural sort of way. I don't want to say humble because humble implies that we're actually not embracing our true power. We want to embrace our true power, but we want to be doing it in our love. We want our love to be accepting and embracing and anchoring and directing all of this incredible knowledge and information based frequencies. So now bringing that back to dialects, all these things that we're talking about, because they're all different frequencies, these are all dialects and they can all be expressed through light language. So I'd love to give you some examples because we've been talking about all these dialects and I know you normally come on this channel to hear me speak, so in light language specifically. So let's give you some very, very short examples. So if I were to channel light language from my ego self, we're just going to go up the way, okay? So we're going to start with the ego self. Brace yourself. Tana isa kamanda di kamanda dumanza takimitsi anata mosha na isolai tene ni ano kamane. So the ego self is a little bit unsure, it's a little unstable, it's disconnected from the heart. Hopefully that didn't disturb you guys, because it's not that it's bad, it's not going to hurt you in any way. It's just giving you a very brief like piece of the puzzle, right? So now if we go to the middle self, Yahonatamasi atigamasao pana aitramatikana isi machola tomata. So you can feel hopefully, I know the tone is different, but it's not about so much the tone, like tone is in there, but there you would have, I felt anyway, hopefully you did as well. There was a more centering to the being. It was starting to become more heart-centered, and there was a little more coherence to the energy. Now let's tune into the higher self. Qana talai shila tokamate ta tokamati shatako patakamati satana tokavushukuna. Okay, so obviously that was a softer voice, but there the energy was coherent, it was balanced, it was grounded, and it was heart centered. So whenever I channel for you, I'm not channeling the lower self, I'm not channeling the middle self, I'm channeling the higher self, or I'm channeling a being that is very clear and coherent in their love, because that's who I connect with. I don't connect with people, beings who aren't oh, connected enough to their love. I'd say that is probably the clearest way to describe that. Now, okay, so my head light language guide Kay, he wants to show you his um signature, frequency signature. Yeah, it's gamat to gama isekiana asilo yushkana gudana manai tada is gonna the light tea sakata to go botokubata no opana. Okay, so that was Kay. He was just sharing himself with you, throwing in a little bit of humor as well. That's always fun. Okay, and then we're going to, because we've been talking about the Pleiadians, we're going to do Pleiadian in their totality. Ya aku matana si achikamadi talo takamani satati takadi randa talo kishena tukamini krano kubuta soda tadadi sedi takana tukabani. Okay, so that was Pleiadians in their totality. Now what I'd like to offer you is a mid-range consciousness in the Pleiades. Kina akumatana asi utakami atakana tokatana asi tadakinako. Okay. So that was good. That was mid-range. Now let's go up a little bit more and connect in with a higher there is someone who actually wants to come in specifically. So very nice. So this being is in training to be as part of the High Priestess Council. So they're in training. They're trying to get there. They haven't made it there yet, but that's their goal, and they're doing their good work to find their way there, to raise their frequency, to refine it enough to be included in this group. Rona tolai sanao tkenet tigenao pana satati kinikina tanatkumana tukushira ate okupupanata sa tayat. Ah, okay, very nice. I could sense they're trying, and I and the message actually was that this is part of their initiation. So they're working through some of the channelers, such as myself, to help prove that they can maintain a high enough level of refine. I'm not sure how to say that word, but being refined enough that they will be accepted into the high priestess council. Okay, now we're going to do the high priestess, the collective high priestess. Yida kana to min iselai shina atama atan ai kana take radano tamashia takana tikena apapa ningino katatari si takana dika chukina tatatari so kapopona hatia tukamata sachiana tatikano sapa. Okay, so that was the high priestess for the Pleiadians. Now, remember, this goes across the board. So this is going to be for the Centurions, the Arcturians, everybody, right? They all have these different octaves, different beings that reside in each, and there's many, many more frequencies than this. We just, you know, like it's kind of infinite. So we have to pick and choose a little bit. I'm just going a little bit random and seeing, okay, who kind of fits into a zone, a range there, from the groupings that we're looking at. So now, if we go to the Galactic Federation, and we're not going to do low Galactic Federation because I personally don't have an interest in that, but we'll do mid-range, we'll do totality, mid-range, and high, just similar to what we did with the Pleiadians. So let's do the totality of the Galactic Federation. Bana atsukumasheda isa no kamanai kanade isi atana vigugumana atsukumachilai sukimindikita debkiano kamano. So they just said, greetings, my friends. We're happy to be here. Okay, so now we're going to do mid-range from the Galactic Federation, mid-range consciousness. Pana e shikina tukuparana ti anargumid istikita dagi takana. Ti said e shi that tugamada is a digibada. They're saying that it's a wonderful exercise to practice your discernment in tuning in and feeling into these different ranges that we're channeling for you today. So there you go. Hopefully you are actually tuning in and feeling the differences, because yes, it will help with your discernment. That's a very good point. Thank you. Okay, now we're going to do higher refined, a more refined energy consciousness from the Galactic Federation of Light. Yina akanatamano shigamado asi atadi granadi nogamane etugamashelo ta papani sataki nogobaden nokokokanate sanatigamandi shila. So that was a message of that they're holding the very best, highest. It's almost like an expectation for humanity. They're saying like they're holding the very best outcome um, for the evolution of humanity, and yeah, very wonderful. Okay, thank you to all those beautiful beings and consciousness who participated in that exercise. Now I would like to also now offer you, I don't know what they're called. Sorry to say, I don't know what they're called, but I have these different points now in the universe that are very activating. So people love to be activated, so we're going to give you an activation today, and this is from the far reaches of it goes beyond the Milky Way. It goes actually way, way, way out. This is because of the way time works. They're contact points in the future. So what we're doing when I make contact with some of these points way, way out there is bridging the gap between the future self and the now self. So we're that's why the activations work because you're already there, you've already been activated, you've already been healed, you've already been there, done that, blah, blah, blah. But what the challenge is that is closing the gap between those time frames. So that's what this is. So we're going to offer you a channeling from one of those future contact points that let's do a healing because everybody has something to heal, right? So if you know what it is inside yourself that needs a little extra help, so I want you to focus on that area, and we'll just give you a very quick zip of energy to help move that along into a more excellent manifestation. Hara is kabata kanadi that is gutidana gamana dokupatama at the yet kanadi lay is she did a gina kokaranisa, but the years kanadi mutakamadisa that the rabata lotikamachiganda kukatanana takina, yet the gana could be designed tanayo, but the resa tadari to no kabadisa that the group of panani gokukamana, but the years kabata to kupuchina at the darai to go na tata hara. Pana tiata kabata hara hara. Hara, 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 sa, sa, sa. All right, there you go, my friends. I hope you have enjoyed this episode. This was completely unscripted. I had no idea where we're going to go with all of this, but hopefully you found it interesting. I just wanted to share my thoughts and feelings around these different dialects and where humanity's going. And hopefully it was interesting and informative. And hopefully you got to play in the different energies and try them on and feel for yourself, the difference between them. And if you're wanting to channel, listening to the different frequencies like this is really, really helpful in learning that discernment. And even if you are channeling, discernment, 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 it's super, super important. Know who you're channeling. Keep asking. If you don't know who it is, keep asking and keep being open to who it could be because it's probably not who you think it is. Oftentimes when we're wanting to be channeling a certain being, we're blocking ourselves from who it really is, and spirit will finally just sort of say, yeah, sure, it's whoever it is that you want it to be. There's a lot of that at play, and our minds are incredibly strong, our egos are incredibly strong, and so it's really important that we learn how to let the ego settle down, let the mind settle down, and just come back to the heart and realize that most of the energies that you're going to be tuning into are going to be loving and they're going to have great things to share. So just be open to whoever it is that's wanting to contact you, and as long as they're in service and love, it's perfectly fine in my books. So massive blessings to you all, wishing you the most amazing, wonderful, and fantastic week. All blessings.